Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from the Frontier. I hope the week's gone well so far. I'm very much looking forward to hosting His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, the former President of the Republic of Ghana, at Mindspeak this Saturday. And have a look at this letter he very kindly sent me. We were speaking over the weekend, and I said, look, I've just got your book, and it's the most exquisite read, I must say. It reminded me of having a glass of Chateau Margaux, which is a very good French wine, halfway up the Eiffel Tower at sunset. Really enjoyable, and I'm looking forward to engaging him on his literary prowess as well. Mindspeak, if you want to get a better idea of what it's about, take a look at this YouTube teaser, which is at the top of Rich Wrap-Ups. And as I've told you endlessly, the inspiration for Mindspeak came via these words, which were written at the entrance to the Mevlana's mausoleum in Konya, which I visited. And I've read all about Rumi, and Konya is actually an industrial city. And we get to his mausoleum, it must have been at around 6:30 evening. And suddenly you're at the end of a street and you see this bustle and activity. And you know what it's like. And plus, I love Rumi, so it was quite a homage for me. Full moon up there in the sky. And as I'm entering, this is what is written. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshipper, lover of leaving, it doesn't matter. Ours is not a caravan of despair. Come, even if you have broken your vows 1,000 times, come yet again. Come, come. Never forgotten those words. And, I think they're very, very powerful. And my excuse for the Chateau Margaux is that Rumi himself liked a glass of wine. Macro thoughts, Euro trade weighted index via Holger. This is interesting because it kind of shows the euro as being substantially more stable than you might think from looking at the euro dollar chart, for example. Take a look at this chart. This is Lehman Brothers via Holger. I flew to New York many, many years ago, once to interview with Lehman Brothers, and my last interview was with Dick Foote, and it was a pretty interesting one, I must admit. China's mountain, or maybe a hill that hits the gym. FX reserves from 1997 took 3 years to get from $3 to $4 trillion, about the same time the other way, says David Inglis. Overseas Chinese acquisitions worth $75 billion have been cancelled last year, we've learned. Figures reveal a 7-fold rise in the value of cancelled deals from about $10 billion in 2015. And I spoke about this in my article at the beginning of the year when I said, Bitcoin appears to have become a proxy for Chinese capital flight. And that's what really was informing my trade, which was long Bitcoin, short gold. Gold is doing rather well, so that trade hasn't come off yet, but it will. Home thoughts, I'm a Mombasa boy, and this is the view from the Tamarind in Mombasa. This photo is by Christiana Noella. And that's a sight that I've seen. And when in my very young times, you'd have a whole bunch of dows there, giving away my age. I like this one from Kiptu Tau. This is of a city here in Nairobi. People who dream when they sleep at night know of a special kind of happiness which the world of the day holds not. A placid ecstasy and ease of heart that are like honey on the tongue. They also know that the real glory of dreams lies in their atmosphere of unlimited freedom. It is not the freedom of the dictator who enforces his own will on the world, but the freedom of the artist who has no will, who is free of will. The pleasure of the true dreamer does not lie in the substance of the dream, but in this, that there things happen without any interference from his side, and altogether outside his control. Great landscapes create themselves, long splendid views, rich and delicate colours, roads, houses, which he has never seen or heard of. Karen Blixen. Booming city, another photograph from Kenya Pics. How to ask for what you want and get it every time. Start with please and thank you, then spoon on the flattery. And I remember a long time ago, a friend of mine, Jennifer Muller, said to me, Ali Khan, flattery gets you everywhere. And she was completely correct. The beaches of Rio in the 1970s, kind of evocative, isn't it? I couldn't imagine myself going around surfing, but I wish I had, actually. I had an old friend called Guido Heller, then joined Standard Bank. He was a great surfer, as is the fellow who founded the Tamarind, him too. Political reflections, the Tower of London today at 1 p.m. There will be a 62-round gun salute to mark the 65th anniversary of Her Majesty the Queen's accession to the throne. What a queen, I thought to myself. All those years, seen so much, really has been, if you wanted to define what a monarchy should be, it's stabilizing, an anchor. I think she has done those things. Iran seeks to conquer the Middle East, it threatens Europe, it threatens the West, it threatens the world. This is Bibi Netanyahu, ahead of his meeting with Theresa May, to whom I give full marks for pushing back Bibi and his drive to wage war on the Iranians, who were once Zoroastrians. Oval official, this is hilarious. This is Saturday Night Live, the link from the weekend. It's 6 minutes. You've got to watch it. Really, it is extraordinary commentary on what's going on. And within 1 hour of that video, Trump tweeted the below, I call my own shots, largely based on an accumulation of data, and everyone knows it, some fake news media, in order to marginalize lies, he said. Put up a photograph of Trump boarding Air Force One in West Palm Beach en route to Tampa, Florida, where he visited CENTCOM headquarters. With every day that passes, more and more Americans believe this is the truth. This is Sean King. This is sort of gone around the internet. Steve Bannon being the president, Trump being his automaton, whatever you want to call him. And of course, that was what irritated Trump, I think, for that tweet. And I was thinking to myself, Bannon must be thinking, it's a tale of hubris, isn't it? You're hardly in the White House, and you got Time magazine calling you the great manipulator. It's going to annoy the president, especially one whose ego tends to be quite fragile. With every day that passes, more and more Americans believe this is the truth. We have allies that are just scared to death, said James Baker III. One man, a certain President Vladimir Putin, controls this creation, the puppet master in charge of the information warfare machine. And yes, he's rather ahead of the curve, isn't he? I think that's clearly established. A linguistic analysis of the linguistic warfare specialist Donald Trump, when you consider what he said about Vladimir Putin, is a fat-tail type of thing, isn't it? On Russia, Trump is a code pink Republican, Eli Lake. Rohingya face campaign of terror in Myanmar, the UN finds. Members of Myanmar's army and the police have slaughtered hundreds of men, women and children, gang-raped women and girls, and forced as many as 90,000 Rohingya Muslims from their homes, according to a UN report released on Friday. Father Daniel, the idea that a popular uprising took place against President Assad is completely false, which it was. And then, of course, my favorite quote, I was in a robust discussion with a notorious fire starter on Twitter, and I was going to sort of respond with this: we have a deviate tomahawk. But I thought better of it. Too much noise and waste of time. Currency markets, euro dollar, 106.93, dollar index 100.17. Interesting, isn't it? It sort of went below that key level and was back above it. Japanese yen has had a big move, 111.86, Swiss franc 0.9940. The pound softening up a little bit, 124.44. Aussie 0.7669, India rupee 67.295, South Korean won 11.4487, the Rial 311.60. Egyptian pound 18.4465 and the rand 13.3309. Dollar index put up a 3-month chart. That 99.50 area, look at the chart, it's still key, I think. Dollar Swiss, this is from David Inglis, he's talking up a stronger Swiss from what his tweet was saying. Commodity markets, gold climbs above its 100-day average. Last 2 times this meant a 10% rally. We're right now at 12.33. And I think that's on sort of geopolitical Trump uncertainty more than anything else, but you've also had a weaker dollar. On the 28th of November, I wrote, I do not see WTI trading above $60 a barrel under any circumstances through 2017. So take a look at this chart. We're now at $53.75. And we've been doing a lot of work up here. The market's very, very long. Let's move on to Africa. Made in Africa, the future of production on the continent, United Nations University. For more than 40 years, Africa's industrial development has been disappointing. In 2013, the average share of manufacturing in GDP in sub-Saharan Africa was about 10%, the same as in the 1970s. Africa's share of global manufacturing has fallen from about 3% in 1970 to less than 2% in 2013. Manufacturing output per person is about a third of the average for all developing countries, and manufactured exports per person, a key measure of success in global markets, are about 10% of the global average for low-income countries. Clearly, Africa needs more industry to create more good jobs. Important points made there, actually, and those interesting data points, weren't they? Zimbabwe has started circulating a $5 bond note, the central bank said. $15 million of new notes have been released. Total number of bond notes in circulation, $88 million. Death spiral looms for Zimbabwe economy as cash runs out. Zimbabwe's crippling cash shortage has left a black hole in the financial system that's crushing the rest of the economy. We deposit the cash and it becomes theoretical, ephemeral. Mohammed Salam, who owns several small stores selling building supplies in Harare. My bank balance says it's there, but it isn't. I can make payments electronically to local suppliers, but I can't pay foreign suppliers. Liquidity squeeze has left companies unable to pay their workers in cash, and foreign suppliers driving many out of business. Economy probably shrank 0.3% last year, set to contract 2.5% this year, according to the IMF. Reserve Bank estimates about $4 billion is circulating in the economy. Confederation of Zimbabwe Industries President Moyo says the amount may be as little as $100 million. The economy is in what could turn into a death spiral. Steve Hanke, Professor John Hopkins in Baltimore, he blamed the government of President Mugabe for being so incompetent and corrupt and prone to making bad economic policies. The country has run out of money and we have completely lost the ability to pay for imports, said John Robertson, an independent economist in Harare. This comes against a backdrop of falling productivity as companies fail to access vital inputs because there's no foreign currency to pay for them. As long as government continues to do things that discourage both local and foreign investment into the productive sector, the situation can only get worse. In a bid to ease the banking shortage, discourage cash hoarding, the government began distributing so-called bond notes in November. $88 million of the dollar-linked securities issued so far out of a planned $200 million that are backed by a loan from the Afrexim Bank. Informal traders and taxi drivers won't or price them as little as 70% of their dollar face value. Zimbabwe is no longer a pure dollarized system, but a mixed system, one that is bound to fail. More bond notes will only add fuel to the demand for hoarding of what is viewed as being the superior currency and a store of value in Zimbabwe, the US dollar. As the issuance of bond notes increases in response to the hoarding frenzy, the premium on dollar notes to bond notes will widen, and so will the distortions in the economy. Countries like Zimbabwe feel they are right at the edge, as Thompson described. The edge, there is no honest way to explain it because the only people who really know where it is are the ones who have gone over. South African all shares up 2.96% this year. Dollar versus rand. Let me show you a 6-month chart. I'm bullish about the rand. Obviously, there's always the risk of some crazy curveball coming out of left field or President Zuma's office. But overall, I think the trend is telling us Zuma is slowly being brought under control. His planned exit with his wife is not going to work, I don't think. Egyptian pound versus the dollar, 18.455. Hanke is very bearish about Egypt as well, interestingly. There is no indication as to when the president will return, President Buhari's spokesman Femi Adesina, and then took umbrage at the interview on BBC, asking me what's going on. The Naira weakened 3% to 315.18. It's about 500 on the black market. A civic group coalition known as Enough is Enough called for a protest Monday in the capital, Abuja. I'll put up a photograph of the protest that Reuters tweeted. Nigeria all shares down 4.79%. Ghana Stock Exchange up 6.25%. I'm bullish about Ghana. Fairfax said to raise about $500 million for New Africa Fund. They were looking to raise $1 billion. XEO Capital, a partnership between AgriV and Stanlib, held a first close for the second AgriV fund last week, landing $100 million in private equity. Kenyan private sector growth indices flat as credit crunch persists. This is the Business Daily, according to the Purchasing Managers Index survey released by Stanbic Bank and HIS Market on Monday. The private sector growth improved slightly, underpinned by a sharp expansion in new work, which was supported by a steep increase in new export orders. The seasonally adjusted index stood at 52 as output increased at a modest pace compared to December's 54.1. On the price front, and I wrote about this, right, there's a lot to do with food prices. On the price front, it rose for the 4th successive month, and a further increase in input costs. In fact, since the legislation to cap interest rates came into effect in September 2016, we can now see signs of distress within the private sector, as presented by lament about cash shortages, said Gibran Qureshi. A further slowdown in private sector credit growth and poor weather conditions will most likely lead to a downward trend in the PMI of the coming quarter. More so, as costs for firms will most probably rise. According to a separate poll, however, business sentiment in Kenya fell in January, pointing to a relatively soft start to the year. Standard Chartered M&I business sentiment indicator fell 4.5% month on month to 59.6, leaving it down 6.8% year on year. 4 of the 5 components of the headline indicator dropped as companies reported slow activity, said the poll. Of the 5 components of the headline indicator, 4, new orders, production, employment, and supply delivery times, together account for 85% of the headline indicator fell. Only order backlogs increased. That might increase further, really, in a way. My piece over the weekend was all about connecting the dots, food prices, the weather, and what we're seeing happen in Laikipia. On that note, the FT had a fantastic piece, The Responsible Way to Own a Piece of Kenyan Wilderness. And it's exactly this area that I was writing about, Laikipia, talking about Ilangwezi, pioneering example of the sweat equity option. Ian Craig brought the idea to my dad in 94 to 96 as Oleg Kenyaga. They were the same age, they had grown up together. The community was suspicious because of the colonial history and said, if you want to build a lodge, go and build it on your land. But Ian Craig took us around the country to lots of meetings and raised money from the EU, the US, and Kenya Wildlife Service to build the lodge. Finally, the elders came together for a meeting under the acacia tree. It was a difficult decision, but we agreed to go ahead. Talking about how Barana is a very rare success story. On that note, I'll show you a photograph of the snow peaks of Mount Kenya with elephants in the foreground. It was taken at Barana Ranch. If you get a chance to look at the interview that I did with Ian Craig of Lever Wildlife Conservancy. ISS, Kenya's opposition needs more than a coalition to win the polls. I have to realize that simply forming a coalition is not enough. Without a credible leader, a clear strategy, and an inspirational message, and with only just 7 months to go till voting day, NASA risks handing the election victory to the Jubilee Party on a platter. Simon Allison. They need to unite and unite behind a figure like Adama Barrow, as I said previously, Barack Obama 2008, a blank slate, which everyone can project their positive views, but they do need to step back and put somebody else in there. Kenya shilling's been on the firming trend, 103.70 area, it always confounds the naysayers. Nairobi All Shares down 6.21% this year, but it's on a 5-session. Today, if it closes up, it will be a 6-session winning streak. It remains down 6.21% this year. The NSE 20 is down 10% this year, but is similarly on a 5-session winning streak. Once again, thank you for stopping by. I hope to see you at Might Speak if you get the chance. That's this Saturday with His Excellency John Mahama.